Keeping my motivation, some days are harder than others. I'm not going to sit here with my halo and wings and go, oh, I'm so motivated all of the time. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I've had a few tears, and that sometimes hinders the progress and hinders the motivation. I try and step back and say, I sometimes can't believe I'm doing it. I can't believe it's happening to me, and I can't believe I've got this far, even though I worked really hard. Just try and keep telling myself, you know, come on, I am good enough, you can do it. But also, I think splitting the work into smaller goals. You can't just have a to-do list that says do PhD, because it's so overwhelming. Just a day at a time. I like to take things a day at a time, tackle tasks. Some deadlines come looming more than others. Other times I've got more time to spend on projects and spend on aspects of the work. So even though I wouldn't say my motivation is always 100%, I try and put things into perspective and motivate myself as much as I can, but also recognise when perhaps I need to have a rest, I need to have a minute, I need to go and have a cup of tea, I need to have a lunch break or something, because I don't think you can be motivated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
How do you keep and maintain your motivation?
My motivation, I'm very spiritual. I focus on things. I read the Bible, I listen to a lot of inspirational messages from different pastors. That helps me a lot because there's a quotation in the Bible that says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Anytime I feel down, once I remember that gives me strength. Another way, I play snooker. I love playing snooker, and I play in the local.
Keeping my motivation for doing a PhD is quite difficult. It's difficult because quite often you're the one having to motivate yourself. You're doing self-directed work. The thing that helps me keep my motivation is thinking about why and thinking about what it was that made me want to do a PhD in the first place, about the potential impact that the finished product is going to have, about who it might help, about how it might help me. And I think if you can hold on to the why and hold on to the purpose, I actually have it written down. So I've asked myself in my notebook, why do I want to do this? Why is this important? Who is this going to help? And I will flick back to that. I've got it bookmarked in my notebook so I can flip back to it at any point and be able to say, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I need to keep motivated.
So keeping and maintaining motivation can be difficult for me personally. I think it can be very difficult when sometimes we're sat in an office or somewhere at home with our laptops in front of us just writing or reading. So for me personally, I maintain focus and motivation by reminding myself or thinking about what the reason is why I started doing it in the first place. It's really easy to be lost in all these documents and words and starting to write and read other people's work, but always bringing it back and looking at the wider picture and saying, actually, this is why I'm doing it, and this is why it's really important, why I started it, and that helps me maintain that motivation throughout.
Motivation wise now, I feel I'm stuck in it. I've got so far into it now that I've got to finish it regardless. Like, I will drag myself through it somehow. Motivation to start with was the enjoyment of it, and you can tick off a lot of milestones as you're going along, but I've kind of got so far through it now that it's going to get finished somehow. No matter how challenging it gets, it's got to happen.
To maintain my motivation, I have this wall in my house that I got all the drawings from the kids I used to work with. So whenever I looked at that wall, I feel like, yes, this is what I've been trying to do for so many years. And yes, with the kids supporting me before, I'm sure they will be happy to know what I'm working to improve their lives as well.
I think for me, a way to maintain my motivation is just, on the one hand, reminding myself how important this topic is to me that I'm working on, but also to sometimes find a new angle to look at when I've been looking at it, something for such a long time, to just go and take a step back and see if maybe there's a slightly different perspective that I could take.
It can sometimes be difficult to keep and maintain motivation, but I've tried all sorts of things, and I found that doing exercise...
Right, that's a difficult one. It's like the difference between playing a group sport and going to the gym independently. When you're at college, it's a bit of a group sport, but when you're doing your PhD, you're suddenly going to the gym independently, and it's a difficult one. Of course, we have our, as you know, we have our PhD research lab, so going in and talking to people and sharing that room, even in quiet, there's motivation there because you're with a group. Of course, then there's that own independent motivation, and I don't know, you get up in the morning and you find some aspect of your PhD that you'll be interested in doing that day, whether it's transcribing an interview, trying to recruit some participants, trying to do some analysis using my in vivo software, which I enjoy using, doing some literature review, research. Again, I get to use the EndNote software and play around and organize things. That's another thing I like to do, is organize things. So on the worst day, I can always organize something and then I'm very happy. So yeah, motivation is a thing. The other thing I think for motivation is sort of healthy body, healthy mind. So I'll go out and do some kind of activity, whether it's just walking. There's a cafe not far from here, about 1.5 miles. So I'll tend to walk to there and then do some work there. And during that walk, it gives me ideas. I'll go out cycling along all the lovely cycle trails that we've got